Lieutenant Emma Marshall hated the graveyard shift at Luna Base's quantum monitoring station. The endless stream of background radiation and commerce chatter made her eyes blur after 4 hours, but it was better than lying awake in her quarters, haunted by the same dream. A massive fleet vanishing into the dark, carrying her family's legacy with it. The station's pale blue lighting cast soft shadows across her console as she adjusted the quantum filters for the 1000th time. The year 2457 had brought many technological marvels, but monitoring deep space remained a monotonous task. Her fingers traced the old brass compass hanging from her neck, a Marshall family heirloom, supposedly carried by her great-grandfather during the Vraxian War. Another thrilling night in the void. Technical Sergeant Rodriguez's voice carried from the coffee station behind her. Emma managed a tired smile. Just the usual ghost stories. Random quantum fluctuations that'll turn out to be another malfunctioning mining drone or... The monitoring array erupted in a cascade of alerts. Emma's hands flew across the holographic interface, thinking it was another system glitch. But as she isolated the signal, her blood ran cold. The quantum signature pulsing across her screen was impossible. She'd memorized it from historical records, studied it during her academy days. "Rodriguez," she called out, her voice barely a whisper. "Get Commander Chen. Now." The signature matched perfectly, the encrypted quantum beacon of the Titan fleet. Not some old echo or garbled transmission, but a clear, powerful signal growing stronger by the second. The same fleet that had vanished 2 centuries ago at the Battle of Proxima Centauri, taking humanity's best ships, crews, and her great-grandfather, Admiral Jack Marshall, into the unknown. Commander Chen arrived minutes later, his uniform hastily donned. "Report, Lieutenant." "Sir, we're picking up a Class 1 restricted signature." Emma's hand shook as she transferred the data to the main display. Authentication protocols matched the Titan fleet's quantum beacon. Signal strength suggests they're approaching from the Carina Sagittarius arm. Chen's face paled. "That's impossible." The Titan fleet was declared lost with all hands in 2257. There's nothing out there but unexplored space. The signature's too strong to be a ghost echo, sir. Emma enhanced the signal pattern. "And look at these modulation patterns. They're responding to our modern authentication challenges. This isn't a recording or a glitch. They're out there, and they're coming home." The commander activated the station's quantum entanglement communicator, linking directly to Earth Command. Within minutes, the small monitoring station transformed into a hub of frantic activity. Security officers rushed in. Computer specialists began running deeper analyses, and Emma found herself repeatedly explaining every detail of her discovery. As the hours passed, the signal grew stronger. Finally, after 2 centuries of silence, a transmission cut through the noise. The holographic display flickered, and a face appeared, older than in the historical records, but unmistakable. Admiral Jack Marshall, looking as though he'd aged only 20 years instead of 200, stared out at his descendants. "This is Admiral Marshall of the Titan Fleet to Earth Command. We've completed our mission. Request authorization to return home." His voice carried the weight of years, of battles fought in unknown space. "Be advised, we bring warning of a threat greater than anything humanity has faced. The Vraxians were just the beginning." Emma's hand clutched her great-grandfather's compass as tears welled in her eyes. The man she'd grown up hearing stories about, whose portrait hung in the Academy's Great Hall, was alive. But the grim determination in his eyes told her this wasn't just a miraculous return. It was the beginning of something bigger. Commander Chen placed a hand on her shoulder. "Lieutenant Marshall, send the authentication codes. Let's bring them home." He paused, studying the Admiral's face on the screen. "And may whatever gods exist help us if we're not ready for what follows them." The compass felt heavier against Emma's chest as she transmitted the codes. The Titan fleet was returning, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they were bringing something with them. something that would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. The massive view screen aboard Earth Defense Command's flagship Hyperion displayed a sight that made Emma's breath catch in her throat. Emerging from the depths of space like ancient leviathans, the Titan fleet materialized at the edge of the Kuiper Belt. But these weren't the pristine warships from historical records. The fleet's flagship, Prometheus, dwarfed its escort vessels with hull modifications that defied conventional engineering. Crystalline structures pulsed with internal energy, merging seamlessly with standard human titanium plating. Organic-looking tendrils of an unknown metallic alloy wrapped around weapon ports, and the entire ship seemed to ripple with fields of translucent energy. "My God," Admiral Chen whispered beside her. "What happened to those ships?" Before Emma could respond, the quantum comm crackled to life. The bridge crew stood straighter as Admiral Jack Marshall's weathered face appeared on the main screen. His blue eyes, so like Emma's own, carried the weight of battles fought in unknown space. "Earth Defense Command, this is Admiral Marshall. Request permission to enter the solar system." His voice was steady, but Emma caught the slight tremor in it. The voice of a man seeing home for the first time in what for him had been 20 years. "Permission granted, Admiral," Chen responded. "Welcome home. We have a lot of questions. And we have answers you won't like." Marshall's image flickered. "I'm transmitting coordinates for a secure rendezvous. Our ships require special handling now." Emma studied the tactical display as the Titan fleet moved forward. Their movement patterns were unlike anything she'd seen. The ships seemed to phase slightly, leaving ghost images in their wake. Energy readings fluctuated wildly, defying known physics. "Lieutenant Marshall," Admiral Chen's voice pulled her attention back. "You're with me. We're taking the shuttle to Prometheus. Your family connection might help ease tensions." The shuttle ride was silent, tense with anticipation. As they approached Prometheus, Emma saw more details that sent chills down her spine. Sections of the hull seemed to repair themselves, micro-fractures sealing with a liquid metal that moved like mercury. Gun emplacements tracked their approach with an unsettling organic fluidity. The docking procedure took 3 times longer than normal. Prometheus's hybrid systems required careful calibration to interface with their shuttle's standard technology. When they finally stepped through the airlock, Emma wasn't prepared for what she saw. The interior was a maze of traditional corridors that occasionally opened into spaces that seemed to bend reality. Crystalline computer interfaces grew from walls that thrummed with power. Crew members moved efficiently through it all, wearing modified uniforms that incorporated the same strange technology as their ship. Admiral Marshall waited for them in what must have been the briefing room. Though it looked more like a chamber from an alien temple, he stood straight-backed in his modified uniform, looking remarkably fit for a man who should have been long dead. When his eyes met Emma's, they widened in recognition. "You look just like your grandmother," he said softly. "My daughter Elizabeth." Emma swallowed hard. "She died 30 years ago, sir. I have her journals, if you'd like to read them." Pain flashed across Marshall's face before he composed himself. "Later. Right now, we need to discuss what drove us back." He turned to Admiral Chen. "The Vraxian War was a children's game compared to what's coming. We've spent 20 years preparing for it." He gestured, and a holographic display materialized in the center of the room. But unlike any hologram Emma had seen, this one seemed to have depth and substance. It showed massive structures floating in deep space, geometric shapes that hurt her eyes to look at directly. "We found these scattered across unexplored space," Marshall explained. "They're automated harvest chips, built by something we called the precursors. They activate every few thousand years to collect advanced civilizations. And according to the patterns we've discovered, they're due to return now." Emma touched her compass, watching the impossible images rotate. The ship modifications, salvaged and adapted from dead civilizations we found. Victims of previous harvests. Marshall's voice hardened. "We lost good people learning how to use this technology. But without it, Humanity doesn't stand a chance. The room fell silent except for the subtle hum of alien technology integrated into human engineering, a sound that Emma realized might represent humanity's only hope for survival. The United Earth government's grand reception hall buzzed with tension. Emma stood at attention near the main entrance, watching uniformed officers mingle uncomfortably with Vraxian diplomats. The aliens' scaled skin caught the light from crystal chandeliers, their ceremonial armor modified to accommodate human formal settings while maintaining their warrior dignity. Her great-grandfather, Admiral Marshall, commanded attention at the center of the room. His modified dress uniform, with its subtle shimmer of integrated alien tech, drew suspicious glances from both humans and Vraxians. Young Earth fleet officers clustered around him, hanging on every word as he recounted survival stories from deep space. The void between galaxies holds secrets older than our civilizations, Marshall was saying. We found entire dead worlds, their surfaces carved with warnings. Warnings that conveniently justify your technological abominations, interrupted Vraxian Ambassador Cthal, his neck frills flaring with barely contained anger. The massive alien stalked forward, towering over the human officers. 2 centuries ago, you vanished rather than face defeat at Proxima Centauri. Now you return with stolen power, spreading tales of apocalypse. Marshall met the ambassador's four-eyed glare. We both know Proxima was a stalemate, Cthal. And what we found out there threatens your people as much as mine. Emma noticed a subtle movement, a younger Vraxian diplomat's hand sliding beneath his ceremonial sash. Training kicked in before conscious thought. She was moving before the energy blade ignited, its purple arc slicing through the space where Marshall had stood a second earlier. Her tackle caught the Admiral hard, rolling them both behind a marble column as the reception erupted into chaos. The assassin's blade carved through the column, showering them with molten stone. But then something extraordinary happened. The alien technology in Marshall's uniform activated. A translucent field rippled around him, and when the energy blade struck again, it bent away as if repelled by an invisible force. Marshall raised his hand, and the protective field expanded to encompass Emma. Security forces swarmed in, but the assassin fought with augmented strength. The fleet must be destroyed. He roared in heavily accented English. Their corruption will doom us all. Ambassador Cthal himself ended the fight, his massive fist catching the younger Vraxian with crushing force. As guards dragged the unconscious assassin away, Cthal turned to Marshall with an unreadable expression. You see, the ambassador growled. Your return destabilizes everything we've built. That technology you wear, it changes the balance of power. The balance of power won't matter when the precursors arrive. Marshall shot back. We modified ourselves to survive, Cthal. Just like your people modified themselves for war millennia ago. Emma helped her great-grandfather up, noticing how the protective field had already faded back into his uniform. Around them, human and Vraxian officials argued in heated clusters. 2 centuries of careful diplomacy teetered on the edge. Lieutenant, Marshall turned to her, his voice low. Thank you. Your reflexes do the family proud. Sir, she hesitated, then pressed on. The assassin's augmentations weren't standard Vraxian military tech. Someone helped him. Marshall nodded grimly. Some fear change more than death. But we're running out of time for fear. He straightened his uniform, the alien components realigning themselves automatically. Come with me. It's time you saw what we're really up against. As they left the reception hall, Emma caught fragments of arguments. Vraxian hardliners demanded the fleet's immediate disarmament. Human military officers called for incorporating the new technology across Earth's defenses. Diplomats from both sides tried desperately to maintain order. In the corridor, Marshall stopped suddenly. Your grandmother, Elizabeth, she would have been about your age when we left for Proxima Centauri. His voice caught. I promised her I'd come back. Emma touched the compass at her neck. She never stopped believing in you. Even named her daughter Hope. Marshall's weathered face softened for a moment, then hardened with resolve. The Titan fleet's modifications aren't just technology, Emma. They're a key to survival. And after tonight, I fear we'll need them sooner than anyone's ready for. Behind them, the reception's chaos echoed through the halls like the first tremors of an approaching storm. The Prometheus's classified briefing chamber seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Emma watched as three-dimensional star charts flickered and shifted, displaying regions of space far beyond known territory. The hybrid technology that powered the room made the military and scientific leaders present visibly uncomfortable, all except the Vraxian fleet lord Khazar, who studied everything with predatory focus. 200 light-years beyond the Carina arm, Admiral Marshall's voice cut through the murmurs. "We found this." The holographic display shifted, showing a massive artificial structure floating in the void. It resembled a mechanical spider web spun between the stars, each strand large enough to swallow Earth's moon. Dark energy pulsed through its framework in patterns that made Emma's eyes hurt. "A precursor harvest ship," Marshall continued, "dead for millennia, but its databanks were intact enough to decrypt. They're von Neumann machines, self-replicating harvesters that activate every 3,000 years to collect advanced civilizations." Fleet Lord Khazar's throat scales rippled. "You expect us to believe this fantasy? That some ancient machine race? We found 17 dead civilizations," Marshall cut him off. "Some more advanced than either of us, all destroyed systematically. The precursors don't just kill. They harvest technology, cultural data, genetic material, everything that makes a species unique." Emma stepped forward, pointing to anomalies in the structure's design. "These patterns, they're similar to the modifications on the Titan fleet. You didn't just study their technology, did you?" Marshall's face darkened. "We lost the Hyperion and Valiant learning how to integrate their tech. Good ships, better crews. But what we learned..." He gestured, and the hologram shifted again, showing the Titan fleet in battle against something massive and dark. "We fought a scout. A single scout, and it nearly destroyed us. But we won, and we learned." The room erupted in questions until Admiral Chen raised his hand for silence. "How long?" "Based on the harvest cycles we decoded." Marshall touched a control, and a timeline appeared. "They should have already arrived. Something's delayed them." But alarms blared through the ship. Emma's console lit up with priority alerts from the quantum monitoring network. Her hands flew across the crystalline interface, familiar enough now with its alien logic to pull up the data quickly. "Multiple quantum signatures at the edge of charted space," she reported, throat tight. They're unlike anything in our database." The hologram shifted to real-time footage from deep space probes. Massive shapes emerged from quantum space, their surfaces shifting like liquid metal. They moved with impossible grace for their size, and where they passed, the very fabric of space seemed to warp. 3 precursor capital ships. Marshall identified them, his voice grim, heading straight for the Vraxian colony on New Artemis. Fleet Lord Khazar stepped closer to the display, his warrior's posture radiating tension. "You claim to have fought these things. How?" "The Titan fleet's modifications aren't just copied technology," Marshall explained. "They're specifically engineered to counter precursor weapons. Their phase shields, their reality warping drives. We spent 20 years learning how to fight them." "A convenient claim," Khazar growled. "But..." The hologram flared red. Emma's hands shook as she read the incoming data. New Artemis just went dark. All quantum communications severed. Last transmission shows. The footage played in horrible clarity. Massive black ships descended on the Vraxian colony world. Beams of dark energy carved through planetary defenses like paper. But worse were the smaller craft, dropping into the atmosphere like metallic rain. Wherever they landed, structures and living tissue began to transform, being rewritten at the molecular level. The room fell silent as they watched an entire world die. Fleet Lord Khazar's voice came out as a whisper. "How long until they reach core worlds?" At their current velocity, Emma checked the calculations. 72 hours to the nearest Vraxian system. 5 days to Earth. Marshall's modified uniform pulsed with suppressed energy as he turned to face the gathered leaders. Now you understand why we came back. This isn't about humans or Vraxians anymore. Either we stand together, or we fall alone. The ancient compass hung heavy around Emma's neck as she watched the precursor ships continue their implacable advance. The harvest had begun. The Joint Human-Vraxian Task Force dropped out of quantum space at the edge of the Theta Reticuli system. Emma stood at her station on the Prometheus's bridge, watching as 30 ships, the best of both civilizations, moved into attack formation. Only one, the Earth corvette Swift Vengeance, had been successfully retrofitted with Titan fleet technology. Precursor signatures detected, she reported, the hybrid console pulsing beneath her fingers. 3 harvest chips, matching the new Artemis pattern. Admiral Marshall shared a look with Fleet Lord Khazar, who now stood on the Prometheus's bridge as Joint Commander. Remember, Marshall warned, conventional weapons. Air useless, yes. Khazar finished. We witnessed their effectiveness at New Artemis. His scales had darkened with grief since watching his colony world fall. The enemy appeared without warning, simply there, where nothing had been before. Their black hulls seemed to drink in light, their surfaces flowing like oil on water. Each ship was easily the size of a small moon, bristling with weapons that defied physical laws. All ships, engage according to plan, Marshall ordered. Swift Vengeance, hold position until. The precursor ships opened fire. Beams of impossibly dark energy lanced out, passing straight through the most advanced shields humanity and the Vraxians had developed. Emma watched in horror as the cruiser Indomitable simply ceased to exist, its atomic structure unraveling in seconds. Evasive action. Khazar roared. Return fire, all batteries. The combined fleet unleashed everything they had. Plasma torpedoes, quantum disruptors, even experimental weapons developed in secret by both species. The precursor ships didn't bother to dodge. Every attack passed through them, as if they existed in a different dimension. Within minutes, half the fleet was gone. The Prometheus shuddered as nearby explosions rippled through space-time. Emma's modified console screamed warnings about local reality becoming unstable. Then the Swift Vengeance made its move. The small corvette, incorporating salvaged precursor technology, dove straight for the nearest harvest ship. Its hybrid shields flickered with the same dark energy the enemy used. When the precursor vessel fired, the beam deflected. Now we see if 20 years of sacrifice was worth it, Marshall muttered, watching the corvette close distance. The Swift Vengeance fired. Modified quantum torpedoes, their warheads reconstructed with alien tech, struck the precursor ship. For the first time, the enemy's defenses failed. Dark energy cascaded across its hull, and a section of the massive vessel simply vanished, carved away by its own twisted physics. By the first egg, Khazar breathed. Your modifications work. The victory was short-lived. The damaged precursor ship responded with overwhelming force, targeting the corvette with multiple weapon systems. The Swift Vengeance dove and weaved, its hybrid drive allowing it to partially phase through attacks, but it couldn't evade forever. Admiral, Emma called out, I'm detecting strange readings from the damaged section of the precursor ship. It's healing itself. Marshall's expression hardened. That's why we could never fully adapt their technology. It's not just mechanical. It's alive, in its own way. Lieutenant, send the data to the Swift Vengeance, if they can hit the same spot again. A direct hit caught the corvette. Its hybrid shields overloaded, and the ship split apart in a reality-bending explosion. But not before its final salvo struck the precursor vessel's wounded section, triggering a chain reaction of dark energy that consumed nearly a third of the massive ship. All ships, retreat to quantum space, Marshall ordered. We have what we came for. As the remnants of the fleet escaped, Emma processed the combat data through her modified systems. Sir, analyzing the Swift Vengeance's telemetry, I think I understand why their weapons affect local spacetime. The precursors don't just bend reality. They operate on multiple dimensional planes simultaneously, which means we can hurt them, Khazar said, his warrior's instincts cutting to the core truth. Your hybrid technology lets us fight on their level. Marshall nodded grimly. But one modified Corvette took 20 years to perfect. We don't have that kind of time anymore. Then we better work faster, Emma said, her hands flying across the crystalline interface. Because I'm detecting more precursor signatures entering the galaxy. Much more. The Prometheus jumped to quantum space, leaving behind a graveyard of ships and the first proof that the greatest threat to both civilizations could be fought. The question was, at what cost? Deep within the Prometheus's hybrid engineering lab, Emma stared at results that shouldn't have been possible. The crystalline displays showed DNA strands from both human and Vraxian subjects, but something was wrong, or perhaps terrifyingly right. The patterns are identical, she muttered, tracing the alien modifications that had begun appearing in tissue samples from crews exposed to hybrid technology. Not similar, identical. The lab door phased open, allowing Admiral Marshall and Fleet Lord Khazar to enter. Both leaders looked haggard after 3 days of continuous adaptation efforts. Following the Battle of Theta Reticuli, every available shipyard worked frantically to modify vessels with salvaged precursor tech. Report, Lieutenant, Marshall ordered, though his voice carried the familiar warmth he reserved for family. Sir, the hybrid technology isn't just affecting our ships. Emma brought up enhanced scans of crew members. It's changing us. Both humans and Vraxians show the same molecular modifications, like our DNA is being upgraded. Khazar's scales shifted colors, a sign of deep concern. Explain. The Titan fleet crews, she continued, they've been exposed longest. Their neural patterns have adapted to interface directly with hybrid systems. But here's the strange part. These changes aren't random. They're following a predetermined pattern, like they're activating something that was already there. Marshall's face darkened. Show them, he said quietly. Emma hesitated, then accessed encrypted files from the Titan fleet's deep space mission. Ancient structures appeared on the displays, covered in writings that hurt the eyes to read directly. We found these in dead systems, Marshall explained. They're not precursor tech. They're older, much older, and they all contain the same message. The seeds are sown. When the harvesters return, the children will awaken. Khazar stepped closer to the display, his warrior's composure cracking. You believe we were engineered, both our species, by something that fought the precursors and won, Emma said. The hybrid technology isn't foreign to us. It's activating dormant genetic markers. That's why the Titan fleet could adapt it so quickly. A sudden alert cut through the revelation. Emma's console flashed with priority warnings. Multiple precursor signatures detected. They're bypassing our outer detection grid. Marshall and Khazar moved with practiced coordination, all former enmity forgotten in the face of extinction. How many? Khazar demanded. 12 harvest ships, larger than anything we've encountered. They're heading straight for the Sol system. Emma's hands flew across the interface. At current velocity, they'll reach Earth in less than 20 hours. Alert all commands, Marshall ordered. Execute Emergency Protocol Omega. Khazar, we'll need every ship with hybrid modifications, even the prototypes. Agreed, the Vraxian commander growled. Better to die testing untried weapons than kneel before these harvesters. He paused, mandibles clicking in thought. The genetic modifications in your crew. Could we accelerate the process? Emma's breath caught as she realized what he was suggesting. The neural interfaces are unstable. Forcing the adaptation could kill the subjects. And if we don't? Khazar challenged. How many will die when Earth falls? When the Vraxian homeworld burns? Marshall studied the data showing the approaching precursor fleet. He's right. Volunteer crews only, but we need every advantage. He turned to Emma. Lieutenant. Emma, I won't order you. I'm a marshal. She cut him off, already preparing the acceleration protocols. We don't run from fights. The next hours passed in a blur of controlled chaos. Crews lined up for the dangerous procedure, knowing the risks. Emma worked until her vision blurred, supervising the genetic acceleration process. Some subjects died in agony. Others emerged changed, their neural patterns perfectly attuned to the hybrid technology. When the final volunteer cleared the process, Emma checked the battle clock. 6 hours until precursor arrival. She looked down at her own hands, noting the subtle shimmer beneath her skin where the modifications had taken hold. The seeds are sown, she whispered, understanding finally what those ancient messages meant. Humanity and the Vraxians weren't random victims in the precursor's path. They were engineered weapons, created eons ago for this very moment. The question was, would they be enough? Earth hung like a blue jewel in the void, its orbital defense platforms bristling with hastily modified weapons. Emma stood at her station aboard the Prometheus, her enhanced nervous system interfacing directly with the ship's hybrid systems. Around Earth's orbit, 300 vessels, human and Vraxian, waited in formation, their crews similarly modified, their hulls shimmering with salvaged precursor technology. Multiple quantum ruptures detected, she reported, her voice steady despite the fear churning in her gut. Precursor harvest fleet emerging. They came like a tide of living darkness. 12 massive ships, each larger than Earth's moon, tore through reality itself to enter normal space. Smaller harvesters swarmed around them like schools of metallic fish, their surfaces rippling with dark energy. All ships, battle formations. Admiral Marshall commanded, his neural link allowing instantaneous communication across the fleet. Remember Theta Reticuli. Remember New Artemis. The Prometheus's hybrid sensors registered Fleet Lord Khazar's flagship moving into position alongside them. Through their enhanced connection, Emma felt the Vraxian crew's battle hunger mixing with human determination. They were no longer separate species but a single fighting force, bound by desperation and awakened ancient genes. The precursors struck first. Reality warping beams lanced out from the harvest ships, targeting Earth's orbital defenses. But this time, humanity was ready. Modified shields flickered into existence, operating on multiple dimensional planes. Some attacks got through, destroying dozens of platforms, but the main defense grid held. Launch Operation Sunforge, Marshall ordered. Emma's fingers danced across her crystalline console, activating the specialized graviton beams they'd installed around Earth's sun. The massive stellar engineering project, completed barely hours ago, fired. Solar plasma, guided by hybrid technology, erupted in a controlled stream directly at the precursor fleet. The enemy ships phased, attempting to shift dimensional planes to avoid the attack. But the plasma had been modified with their own technology, following them through their quantum refuge. 3 smaller vessels disappeared in solar fire. Direct hits, Emma called out. Their dimensional shifting can't. A massive blast cut her off. One of the larger harvest ships had fired its main weapon, a beam of pure entropy that began unraveling the fabric of space-time itself. Ships caught in its path simply ceased to exist, their component atoms scattered across multiple dimensions. Evasive action. Khazar roared through the neural link. Pattern Omega-7. The combined fleet moved with impossible coordination, their enhanced crews reacting at superhuman speeds. The Prometheus pitched and rolled, its hybrid drive allowing it to partially phase through normal space. Emma felt every maneuver in her modified nervous system, her consciousness spread across the ship's sensors. Enemy vessels targeting Earth directly, she reported. They're positioning for a killing stroke. Marshall's voice carried across all channels. Execute Lazarus Protocol. Emma's heart skipped. The Lazarus Protocol was their final gambit, a desperate plan based on their genetic revelations. Through their neural links, every modified crew member focused their consciousness into the hybrid systems. Ship after ship began to glow with internal energy as ancient DNA patterns fully activated. The Prometheus shuddered as reality buckled around them. Emma felt her awareness expanding, connecting not just with the ship but with every modified human and Vraxian in the fleet. In that moment of transcendent connection, she understood what their ancient creators had built into them. They were no longer merely crews piloting ships. They had become something more, a gestalt consciousness-wielding technology that violated the laws of physics themselves. The combined fleet moved as one organism, their hybrid systems perfectly synchronized. When the precursors fired their entropy weapons, the defenders shifted between dimensions in perfect harmony. Counterattacks struck with devastating precision, guided by thousands of linked minds operating on instinct older than their civilizations. A massive harvest ship exploded, its death throes tearing holes in spacetime. Then another fell, and another. But the victory was costly. With each destroyed precursor vessel, the strain on the modified crews grew. Emma felt minds winking out across the neural network as the power burning through their enhanced bodies proved too much to handle. "Father's wall is breached," she called out, watching Earth's final defense line crumble under the assault. 3 harvest ships still operational, moving into killing position. The battle for humanity's homeworld had reached its desperate climax, and Emma realized with crystal clarity that survival would demand a price higher than anyone had imagined. Reality fractured around the Prometheus as the 3 remaining precursor harvest ships pressed their advantage. Earth's atmosphere burned with dimensional rifts, its oceans boiling where entropy beams had struck. Through the neural network, Emma felt the agony of dying crew members, their enhanced bodies burning out from the strain of wielding hybrid technology. Admiral Marshall's voice cut through the chaos. "Status report. 30% of the fleet remaining operational," Emma responded, her enhanced senses processing battlefield data instantly. "We've lost contact with the lunar defense grid. The Vraxian dreadnoughts are." "Wait." Her eyes widened as new data flooded her consciousness. "Sir, I'm detecting energy patterns within the precursor ships. They're familiar." Fleet Lord Khazar's voice joined the neural link. "Explain, quickly." Emma's fingers flew across the crystalline interface, her modified DNA allowing her to process the impossible readings. The precursor ships, they're not just harvesting technology. They're storing genetic data, billions of patterns, including the ones we carry. Marshall's face showed sudden understanding. They're not just destroying civilizations, they're collecting the genetic modifications our creators left behind. Which means, Emma's voice shook with revelation, we're not just weapons against them. We're what they've been searching for all along. Through their shared consciousness, she felt Khazar's warrior mind grasp the implications. "Then let us give them what they seek, all of it at once." The plan formed across their linked minds simultaneously. The remaining fleet, guided by their gestalt consciousness, moved into a new formation. Every modified crew member poured their energy into the hybrid systems, pushing their enhanced bodies beyond safe limits. "Emma." Marshall's voice carried centuries of command and a grandfather's love. "You'll have one chance. Make it count." She understood. Her consciousness expanded through the neural network, touching every modified mind in the fleet. Human and Vraxian thoughts merged into a single purpose as she accessed the genetic patterns buried deep in their enhanced DNA. The precursor ships sensed the change. Their harvest beams locked onto the fleet, eager to collect the genetic data they'd spent millennia searching for. But this time, when the beams struck, the defenders didn't resist. Emma felt her body burning as she channeled power through the Prometheus's hybrid systems. Ancient genetic code activated in cascading patterns, releasing energy their creators had hidden within their very cells. Through the neural link, she guided this power into the harvest beams themselves. The precursor ships, designed to collect and store genetic patterns, greedily absorbed the energy. Too late, they realized their mistake. The stored patterns in their massive databanks resonated with the Defenders' activated DNA. Billions of collected genetic codes from harvested civilizations awakened simultaneously, overwhelming the Precursor's containment systems. Reality itself buckled as the energy of countless stored species burst free. All ships, clear the blast radius. Khazar commanded. The Defenders retreated as the Precursor vessels began to tear themselves apart from within. Dimensional rifts collapsed in chain reactions as the harvest ships expelled their stored genetic energy in massive waves. When the light faded, the massive vessels hung lifeless in space, their ancient quest finally ended by the very patterns they'd sought to collect. Emma's consciousness returned slowly to her body. The neural network hummed with exhausted triumph and grief for their losses. Through the Prometheus's viewport, she watched Earth's wounded face slowly heal as the dimensional rifts sealed themselves. "The ancient engineers," she said softly, "they didn't just give us weapons to fight the Precursors. They gave us a way to free everyone they'd taken." Marshall placed a hand on her shoulder, his modified DNA shimmering beneath his skin. "And now we carry their legacy. Both our species, changed forever by this. Perhaps that was their gift." Khazar's voice carried newfound respect. Not just survival, but evolution, a way to ensure their children would grow beyond them. The fleet limped back to Earth orbit as recovery ships launched to assist damaged vessels. Emma felt the neural network adapting, stabilizing in its new form. Humanity and the Vraxians had entered a new age, transformed by ancient engineering and their own desperate courage. "The harvest is ended," she whispered, watching the sun rise over Earth's horizon. "Now we learn what we're meant to become." In the depths of space, the dead Precursor ships drifted like monuments to a cycle finally broken, while below, two civilizations began their journey into an unforeseen future together.